So Coach Baldwin, it's a pleasure to have you on the Schultz Report. I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been an especially eventful year for you, given that you were able to sign your son, who, could have gone anywhere. Massive recruit, incredible player. What was that process like for you? Walk me through it in terms of being both a dad and also a head coach of a school wanting to land a blue chip prospect.
Yeah, for 4 years prior to making his decision, being, starting from a ninth grade freshman to his senior year, it's been great to be helpful along his journey. I had gone through this before, not the super level that he had been recruited from, but still at a high level that I can talk to him about some of the pitfalls, talk to him about all the great things that transpired because of his recruitment and being meeting a lot of great people, from coaches to players and all of that. So the thing for me that I wanted for him was to make sure that he enjoys it as much as he possibly could, have fun with it. He wouldn't go through this ever again,
Yeah.
and ultimately this is going to be his decision. So for me, it was all right. I'm letting this kid who's my son make all these decisions and think about the schools that he wants to go to, all in the grand scheme too, of knowing that I would love to coach him and still have that great relationship with him. So there was a mixed bag of feelings because I wanted him to be his own person and live his dream, and
Right.
at the same time, considering the level that I was at, thinking that if we had an opportunity to be together as father and son, as coach player, I thought that would be awesome.
How has recruiting changed since you went to Northwestern in '90, right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's changed a lot, but in terms of how you were recruited and how you're recruiting kids today, what's the biggest difference?
Well, I think the biggest difference is the social media aspect, because a lot of times there were times that Patrick may have been talking with the coach that I didn't know, and it showed up the conversation, whomever it was with, on social media, whether it was Twitter or something else. So I think that's the biggest thing and the biggest change in recruitment is social media, and how that component becomes really, really huge in that process and navigating that. I think the other side too is, basketball has changed a little bit, where, there's the focus on a lot of skill. You have big guys now, 6'10", 6'11", that have tremendous skill sets, and that was different back in the day when I was playing. And but I think overall, recruiting is recruiting. A big part of it is the relationship side of it, and every single coach that had recruited me, they were big in building the relationship with me. And I think it was the same way with coaches who were recruiting Patrick, is the relationship side
Yeah.
and how they built that with him.
Did you enjoy, looking back at your process, did you enjoy your recruitment when you came out of high school?
I did, because it was fun coming home from school at 3:30, and you had a home visit. That was great. Now it was a little bit different for Patrick because of COVID. He didn't have any home visits. So from my perspective, it was cool, to have somebody in your living room, and your mom or dad made some really good food, and the coaches when they're talking about their programs, or they came to an open gym, and you're just playing in open gym while those coaches sat and watched you. So it was always a lot of fun. It was great to get all the mail that I received and having it in a shoebox, and now I can sit back and look at some of those same letters or mail outs that I got, and how cool that was and how fun that was.
When because I played at a lower level in Seattle U, but which is now in the WAC, but it's still,
Yeah.
when I was there, they were Division II. So I know how I was when I was getting recruited. Whenever a coach came to a game, I always felt, especially if it was multiple coaches, and especially if it was a school I liked, I always felt like I had to play really well. Did you or Patrick ever, you think, press when those situations happened?
Yeah, I think there was a time when I pressed really hard in one particular game. and another time I didn't. Roy Williams came to watch me. That's when he was at KU, and I was in my senior year at
They just won a title in '88, right?
yeah, they just won a title, and then 88, 89, I think was my junior year, and then
Yeah.
89, 90 was my senior year. So Coach Roy Williams came to my game against Lawrence High School, and KU is right in Lawrence, and
Wow.
probably played not a very good game because I was overhyped. I was so excited that
Yeah.
it wasn't my best game, and and then on another occasion, Dave Lato, when he was at UConn, came to my game, and it was actually fun because I was singing the national anthem before my game on that
Wow.
same game that he came, and it was broadcast on Scholastic Sports America on ESPN. So
Wow. That was a big
that was a
deal.
yeah, it was a big deal, and that was a day I didn't press. That I had I think 20 something and got a dunk in the game, and so it was a lot of fun.
How similar? I mean, I know you're a lot different, but what do you see similarities wise with you and your son in terms of how you played?
Well, I think we're totally different because obviously
The
he has
size.
great size,
Yeah.
but I think our IQ. I prided myself on having a very good IQ and trying to play the right way. I think we're very similar from that perspective. He has a tremendous IQ. He's always trying to play the right way, make the correct play that's out there on the floor, and just caring about the teammates. I cared so much about my teammates, and he's the same way. He treats them with the reverence, and he totally respects who he plays with. And I think those are the similarities. He's much better than I ever could dream of being. His size makes a difference. His skill set, having that size takes him to another level, and he certainly he probably shoots it better than I did as well. I mean, he's just he's done some really good things to get to this point.
You're not. You're selling yourself pretty short. I mean,
I'm giving
you
him a
have.
lot of credit, and I think I was pretty good. So that could almost tells you where he's at because he's really good in my opinion, and I just think he's better than me in a lot of different ways.
Yeah.
Defensively, he doesn't have me on that. I can tell you that much. That's the one
Defensively
I
or
own.
offensively?
Yeah, I own that one.
Which one?
The defensive side. I,
Oh,
I own the
defensively. Yeah.
defensive side.
Yeah.
He
Can you
he
get a stop if you need to or no?
he could get a stop, but I know I'm getting a stop. That's how I felt on the defensive end.
I love that. So walk me through now how do you guys approach this season in terms of have you had any restrictions with practicing and also looking forward to games and capacity crowds? Any have there been any restrictions?
Restrictions in as far as him playing,
No,
practicing.
COVID.
Oh, with COVID, at this point, there aren't any restrictions on our end. From the time that we started June 28th with our summer workouts to the end of our summer workouts, we've been able to practice every single day or every opportunity that we had. Now there aren't any restrictions as we're going into
Yeah.
our fall and preseason workouts leading up to the first official day.
How do you go about scheduling year to year, and how involved are you with that process, especially
We
when
try
you're
to
trying to, get big opponents? I don't know if it's Big Ten or ACC, but when you're trying to get Power Five schools, how does that work?
well, we try to work in advance, and I think this was a different year because many of those schools were anticipating Patrick coming in, so they were holding off
Because there's not a lot of
scheduling.
good
Yeah,
games. You feel like?
yeah, I think that's one part of it, and then I think with the other players that we have coming back, we have our leading scorer coming back, we have our third leading scorer coming back, and we had a couple guys sitting out, and then our recruiting class through the transfer portal too. I think makes us a pretty good
Tournament
team in my
qualification.
opinion.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of times in scheduling, you're thinking about that. All right, if they get Patrick, if they have this leading scorer coming back, if their second or third leading scorer comes back, do we want to put ourselves in that position to play that game? So I think some of that comes into it. So it becomes this year became very difficult. In prior years, trying to work early, and because everyone in our level is trying to get, whether it's a buy game where a Power Five, you go to that Power Five school and play them, and you earn some money for your
Yeah.
for your
Well, I know
program
like
and
in
department.
football, uh,
The
you know,
money's crazy in football.
well, I'm a big Washington Husky fan.
Yeah,
They scheduled Montana. They paid him $700,000 to come play. They
yeah,
lost. Now
yeah.
they got to go to Michigan, and it ruined the whole season.
No question about it.
You
And
know,
that's
and
the
football is
that's the
different because you lose
juxtaposition.
one bad game.
Yeah. No, when we first got here to Milwaukee, we beat Iowa State, and so not at their place.
Oh,
So
at Hilton, wow,
yeah,
monster win.
that was the tough part because I think they had gone 20 something straight
Great.
seasons without a non-conference loss
Home run.
or home opener loss.
Yeah.
So that was something that was really special to go into Hilton, and being from Kansas, and they were in the Big 12 and at and playing, knowing who they were, and they had some really good teams. This was a big win for us. So it makes it even more special when you know that you're getting a guarantee game,
Yeah.
and then you win, and you're trying to get that check as quickly as possible before they change their minds.
Yeah. How did Coach? Because how long were you an assistant at Northwestern? Was it 3 years?
I was there for 4 years as an
4
assistant
years.
of Chris Collins. Yeah.
So, and yeah, I know you've coached at a variety of places, but specifically at your alma mater in the Big Ten as an assistant, what did that do in terms of preparation and helping guide you now as a head coach?
Oh, I'm forever grateful to Coach Collins and bringing me back to my alma mater, a place that I always say this, that I have ownership in, and my
Yeah.
DNA is all across the floor there, and it was probably the most special time that I've ever had, other than being a player at Northwestern. To come back to my alma mater, to be with a guy like Chris Collins, that his track record at
Yeah.
Duke as a player and as a coach, and all the things that he'd learned from Coach Krzyzewski and things that he brought with him. I soaked it up every single day. And, because of that, I think that it prepared me. Now, you can never be or you can never be as prepared as you
Yep.
like to be. But I think in some of the nuances, maybe off the court, even more so, I was prepared. And then to see the way that Chris operated as a head coach and what he thought about, and picking his brain, it couldn't have worked out any better than that.
The beautiful new arena.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
No, that's amazing. That's amazing. Now, I was
A little
gone
different than when
before
you were
that
there.
was done. Well, I was gone before that as an assistant. I was already here when
But
they
as a head
started
coach,
playing.
but as a player, you didn't.
Oh, as
you
a
didn't
player,
play in that
no, without a doubt, it's totally different.
What was the old one like?
The old one, bleacher seating around, and it was
old.
just, it was old. It was old. I think you think about it, at even the time that I went to school there were other new facilities popping up around the country. So we still kind of had an antiquated building and
Yeah.
an operating system there. I knew I had some doors that I could still get in, even when I came in as an assistant coach. There were still some doors I could prop or know that I could get in late at night if I wanted to get some shots up, or someone wanted to shoot. So now it's all this technology, so I can't even get into the school anymore if I even try. So much.
Was it your freshman year or sophomore year with the Fab Five?
It was my sophomore year with that group. Yeah.
So what do you remember about those games?
Well, I just remember just how amazingly tough it was to play against them because of their athleticism and being so young. They played well beyond their years as far as their toughness and ability, and it seemed like they were not in their freshman year. They were in year 2 and 3 of their existence there at Michigan. So sorry about that. So from that perspective, it was really tough. And then to add someone like Chris Webber, who had everything. He had size, athletic ability. He played on the defensive line. Very good passer. He ran the floor. He could handle the ball up the floor. But then Juwan Howard, who was as fundamentally sound as a big man that you could find and could stretch you. Jalen Rose was really good. He could do it all on the floor at 6'7", 6'8", playing the point. And
Jimmy King was tough. Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy King was a very good athlete, especially in his freshman year. You remember Jimmy King and Ray Jackson didn't start until later on in their freshman campaign. So they were just trying to find themselves with that group, with those three guys.
How loud was Chrysler back then?
To be honest with you, it wasn't Ohio State or Indiana from that perspective, because I think everybody could talk about Chrysler Arena, that the way they positioned the fans and where they sat. The student section, I think, was a little bit higher, and I guess gave a little bit more credence to season ticket holders and sat them.
So it wasn't as loud.
So it wasn't like raucous and very loud from that perspective, but still good nonetheless.
Yeah, my favorite. I always say, people have asked me, and I've asked guys about Big Ten arenas. There's a lot of good ones, and the one that I really like is Mackey. I always feel like that's just it's a cool place. I was curious if you had a good experience there.
Yeah, I had a great experience there. We actually, my junior year, beat them at Mackey Arena. So, but
was that with Big Dog?
That was with Big Dog. So that was my 92, 93 year that we beat them at their place. And that was as good of a win that we've had at Northwestern when I was there. But it's a great place to play. The other places that I loved was the Barn up in Minnesota.
Yeah, of course.
They had the big drop down at the bottom. And for some reason, I just love that atmosphere. And then
that bouncy floor.
Yeah, super bouncy floor. I had a couple of dunks in the Barn.
Yeah.
And then the last place obviously is Indiana. Just because of the tradition, going up against Bobby Knight's teams, and they had some really good players at Indiana. So those three places were tremendous to play in and against those teams.
Was Calbert Cheaney there or no?
Yeah, and Calbert Cheaney was there, and I'll tell you a story about Calbert. So I think we were getting ready to play Indiana. My Coach Foster, God rest his soul, he came up to me and said, "Hey, we're going to play a boxing one in this game." And I said, "Great." And who's the one guy guarding them? And he said, "You are." So I always felt confident in guarding someone. But then I found out later that he was like 30-something points away from becoming the all-time leading scorer in Indiana history. So during that game, I hit every single screen. They were setting mountains and mountains of screens for him just to get him open and try to get him that scoring title.
Did he get it?
I think he got it. So
he got it.
Yeah, I think he got it.
I don't think people realize. Calbert Cheaney to me was one of the truly great Big Ten players, and he was left-handed. He was big and athletic. I loved Calbert Cheaney.
Oh, he was amazing as a lefty. You talked about that, and he was athletic, and he could shoot it, and he was in that system in the screening. They were getting him open, and he was probably, in my opinion, not only just the Big Ten. I think in the country, he was one of the best players in the country. Probably in his last 2 years because of all the things that he was doing.
Yeah, you talked about Weber and Cheaney, like those guys. We see a lot more of that now, but in the 90s, there weren't players like that.
Stuck around
Billy Owens was another one when he was at Syracuse.
Yeah.
There just weren't players that were that big and skilled and different. And Calbert was one of them,
Yeah, Calbert was one of them. I thought Big Dog started playing a little bit more on the perimeter too. Yeah. And Jimmy Jackson was a 6'6", 6'7" guy. And then my freshman year, if you think about guys, that I played with the 90-91 season or against, Steve Smith was a senior when I played at Michigan State at 6'8", playing the point. And that was just unusual to see somebody that good, that tall, being able to do everything out there on the floor.
Was Glenn Rice there? No, he was later.
Yeah, he had finished up. They won that championship in '89, so he was already gone. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some
Michigan
great players.
Michigan had, the Webbers and Jalen Rose at 6'8", Calbert Chaney at Indiana, Steve Smith was at Michigan State, and then Illinois had some great size guards as well. So it was a gauntlet. I think it was Sam Lynch at Minnesota was 6'7". Willie Burton.
Willie Burton. Oh my God.
Playing against
these
him.
are just names I don't think about, but yeah.
Yeah. Mitchell was there were some really good players in the league. I could go down the line on who I played against.
Who do you think is the best player? Maybe it's Chris Webber that you ever played against.
Well, Big Dog and Chris Webber are right there.
Yeah.
As the best players, in my opinion, in my 4 years that I played against in the Big Ten, just because they could do it all. But again, so you're lumping them in with Chris Webber, Big Dog, Steve Smith in that same area, in that same range, and then Jimmy Jackson. Jimmy had a great run, and
and then Michael Finley was later.
Michael Finley was a year after me, and he didn't have the accolades even as that group that came out of Proviso East, but he really worked to get himself to that position and became one of a really good Big Ten player.
Oh yeah, I loved him. So 2 more, I'll get you out of here. Are you a coach that puts goals on the team, like let's win 20, let's win the conference, or are you not goal oriented?
I'm goal oriented but I want it to be tangible. I want it to be real, from the standpoint of what's attainable, what's achievable for our group. And I do have, we do have goals. We talked about that in the summer. And then we really, as we go through the summer and coming into the fall, we start to even pare those down, from, what we want to try to accomplish. So I am goal oriented. I want our guys thinking about that. But it's really tangible things that we try to look at. It's not, you want to win every game. There's no question about that. But, if you drop one, not dropping 2 in a row, stuff like that. I think if you're doing it that way, then you're putting if you're not dropping 2 in a row, that means you're winning a good number of your games, or trying to be a really good home team and taking care of business on the road, stuff like that. I think those are tangible things that you can look at.
It's a tough league with a lot of good players. I mean, my favorite player to come out of the league in the last 5+ years was Kiefer Sykes.
Yeah, he was tough.
At Cleveland State, who was terrific. He just signed.
He played at Green Bay. Kiefer did.
Oh, Green Bay, right? Sorry, my fault.
Yeah. I saw him with what was it? Boeheim's Army.
Exactly. Hit the game-winning shot, then he signed the next day. It was a great story. But there's a lot of really good teams in that league. So I guess my question is, what? And I think I know the answer given our discussion, but just if you could lay it out for me, what would be the identity of Wisconsin-Milwaukee hoop at this point, and how do you want to shape it moving forward?
Well, I think, I want our identity to be on the defensive end, where we compete and where we're tough. And, I think that we have a chance to improve on the defensive end, but that's where I want our identity to be, on the defensive end, where we protect the paint and rebound and all of those things. And then offensively, I want to be a team that we try to score as often as we can early.
You want to push?
Yeah, I want to really push the basketball and try to score, but then be efficient in our half-court offense to be able to score from that perspective. I think that we have an ability to score with our leading scorer coming back, our third leading scorer. Patrick can obviously score. Jordan Lathan is a kid that didn't play last year. He transferred from UTEP and has an opportunity to be really good. I think he can add and contribute that way. I think we have some size in our paint that we can throw the ball into. We have a couple of 7-footers, and then we have another 6'11" kid that throw the ball into. So we have across the board,
like 10 deep.
Across the board, we have guys that we can I think draw up something, or they can be in a position where they can score. So So that's why I think that we have the ability to do that and score more, and that could be our identity. But the defensive end it has to be
That's
our calling
everything.
card. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. I don't know. Sometimes it's hard to convince 18 and 19-year-old kids to that you can not to take off a play defensively. I can imagine that's a challenge.
Yeah, it is a challenge, but at the end of the day, if you have kids that care about winning and they're seeing what these other teams have done in the past, and most of the teams, yeah, while they score, they also defend it. Those are the teams that win. So I think that we have good kids in our program that care about winning, and I think that they want to defend. And like you said, it's about us putting them in position and doing the right things to defend and hopefully win some of those games.
Well, Coach Baldwin, I want to thank you for taking the time. I kept you a little long. I really enjoyed the conversation. Now I have an extra excuse to get out to Milwaukee, see a Bucks game, see you guys, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you and for your son as well. It's a wonderful story, and I'm really rooting for you. So thanks for taking the time.
No, thank you. And yeah, anytime you're in the area and we're
I'm
practicing or have
there.
a game, come on through.